Hello, dear friends. My lovely audience is welcome to the East West Show. Jack Chow, the East West Show with G and E TV. For the past 2 weeks, we did 2 shows in a row called A Diagnostic Look into California. Namely, we're playing doctors to see what's wrong with California. What can we do, what we can do to correct it, to fix it. So previously I was with Mark Ng, founder and the CEO of Asian business industry B2B, right? So CIA, California Industry B&B, B2B, and also with Betty Chu of Monterey Park originally, now Orange County, and also John G of Orange County. And we did the second one, and now this is the third one in the series called the Diagnostic Look into California, see what's wrong. So to both of you, welcome here. And then joining Mark is a brand new friend of this show. His name is Constantino Rodriguez, and he is the candidate for California Controller. To both of you, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us, Jack.
Thank you for having us.
Since you're new, I would have to start with you. A little introduction about yourself, please, and also your campaign, please.
Sure. Like you said, my name is Constantinos Rodriguez. I'm the controller candidate that's going to be in November. And I'm a businessman, so I've worked within government as a city commissioner for the city of Anaheim, but most of my time I've spent as a CEO and a chief financial officer of multiple different corporations, from transportation companies, sitting on board of directors of manufacturing, and then also being on 501c3. I am the treasurer of the board of directors for the Anaheim Performing Arts Center Foundation. So I spend my time, personal life, between business and working for charities, and then the other part of my time I work on public policies and obviously running for California State Controller.
In other words, you're the money guy.
I'm the money guy.
Okay, so welcome to the show, Mr. Money.
Thank you.
Good. California needs some smart mind to handle our money, right? So, Mark, in case my audience is the first time hear you, and can you do a little introduction of yourself, please?
Absolutely. I'm Mark Ng. I'm the president and founder of Asian Industry B2B, and our organization helps Asians get activated into the community, because we know that there's a need for Asians to get involved, not only through charitable or cultural activities, but also with political activities. It's important for us to be out there and have a voice, and that's what's lacking. And our organization has achieved tremendous success. We always get about 100 to 200 people at each monthly event, and it shows that there's a need to get back to our old values. I mean, really, our organization stands for family and business. Those are 2 major pillars, and people are attracted to that message. And there's a lot of 501c3s and other nonprofits out there that are focused on maybe attacking a social justice component. We are attacking those same components with practical, pragmatic solutions, and it's just been amazing. So I'm very honored to be here, and very honored to be with a good friend here, Constantinos, and really address some of the issues today. So
very good, very good. I would like to start with Mr. Rodriguez first. Rodriguez, right? Rodriguez first. Constantino, that's a lot easier, right? So, what in your eye, because we call this show a diagnostic look into California, and of course everything is concerned, money is the first, always the first, right? You can never be wrong, you prioritize money first, right?
Correct.
So what's wrong with California money, the way California money is being spent?
The fundamental problem with California is a large state budget, but also when we're looking at the tax rate and the regulatory. So the more important is, as Republicans will always say, you got to cut taxes, you got to cut taxes. Cutting taxes is very important. But more important is regulations, right? Because regulations cause prices to increase or doesn't allow businesses to grow initially. So it's kind of like a tax in the beginning is a regulation, where a profit tax is at the end. So regulation is the biggest problem that we have in California. It's not business friendly. You don't want to open up a business here, unfortunately. And then also, yes, the taxes are high, but the biggest diagnosis and the biggest problem that we have is the legislature and the Democrats on the other side of the aisle. Now, the problem that we have with them is they still think, it's the California of 50 years ago, and it's not. Even with the Republican, the Trump tax plan, for instance, fundamentally changed the relationship between the state and the federal government. So before, you had 100% of your state and local taxes, you were able to deduct it from your federal income taxes. So if you owed, say, $100 in taxes, before, if you owed $100, say you paid $75 to California and $25 to the federal government, right? Because you owed $100 to the federal government, but they allowed you to deduct that $75 that you paid for California. Now, you can only deduct, say, a total of $10,000 of your state and local deductions. So now, when we were seeing people leaving California, it wasn't the rich people. A lot of people had that misnomer because the top marginal tax rate was 13.3%.
Average people.
Yeah, it was the average people, because the California's policies and regulations hurt the cost of living, and it made it difficult for middle class, and it still does. But with the new tax plan that's in place, now millionaires and billionaires don't get the protection that they used to get from the federal government. And so it could cost tens of millions of dollars for the rich to live in California.
They are moving out of California. There are businesses moving out of California too.
Now they are moving now out, because especially rich, because they don't have the protections that they used to have. So the problem is about 70,000 people make up 48% of the California budget. 25 out of 25,000 makes up 15%. So these numbers we're starting to see is we're going to be getting a large exodus of rich people that are paying the bills right now are going to be leaving, and that's the fundamental difference in the problem that we have in California.
Now we're losing the source of money.
We're losing the source of money, and they don't want to take look at the political situation, look at the realities on the ground, and say we have to adjust the way we do regulations, taxes to be more competitive. They're refusing to do that.
All right.
And so that is the biggest fundamental problem we have in California.
Well, okay, and on the other hand, I remember for the last show, Mark, during the first chance to speak, he spoke about the unfunded liabilities.
Yes.
Right, versus the limited income. And by the way, most of my audience who called me or wrote to me paid attention, focus on that point. They're talking about you're carrying too much, more than you can carry.
Absolutely.
Right? You have one shoulder, you put 3 bags on yourself, and you'll crash. So you wanna, I want you to probably start from that perspective again, to back him up, to say, here's the money situation, here's the burden situation. All right. So you want to start with the unfunded burden first?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people know how much that is a problem here. I mean, if you pay attention to your own city governments and see what's going on what kind of pensions are going on for, and God bless the firefighters, God bless the policemen, but and all hardworking professions, but it is unrealistic. It is unrealistic to be saying you can work for 20 years and then have a free ride the rest of your life. It is starting to get ridiculous, and when you look at the math there, which is why I'm so happy Kostas is here today to back up this point that we are basically running up our credit cards. So without any care whatsoever, we just want to make everyone feel good for the moment and give them that, you know, oh yeah, you're going to be fine the rest of your life without working, without actually making this a productive state. Look at a state like Texas and even Arizona. They laugh at us. They say, oh, you know, we just have to exist. And then all these Californians are just coming and populating our states. I mean, Texas in the last 10, 20 years has experienced a tremendous amount of growth because Republicans are in charge and, you know, basically made it easier, like Costa said, for a new business to sprout up or for big companies to actually have the incentive to come in and bring in jobs.
And by the way, I want this discussion to be totally free of partisanship. So we are not speaking on behalf of Republicans.
I'm an independent.
Neither are we speaking on behalf of the
I'm
Democrats.
an independent who wants to see...
Excuse me. Just from a perspective of what things should be done.
Yes.
Right. And how things is not done that way. Right?
Yeah.
So putting together, we're kind of see a stretch from both ends. Am I right?
Yeah, see, the biggest problem is that when you have with the unfunded liabilities for the pensions, for instance, with CalPERS and what we see, now there's a thing called actuarial calculations. It's what you calculate to determine what is your liability, how long average people live, how long will people be collecting, and what will be the rate of return on your investment. The fundamental problem that we have is the discount rate, or the rate that is considered the rate of return, was based at one point at 14% rate of return each year, which was insane, but they dropped it down to 7.5% annual rate of return on investment. They're going to be dropping it to 7%. Now, but here's a fundamental problem. Even CalPERS' own outside consultants say that is an unrealistic number. It's actually should be about 6.2%. That's what they say. Now, Stanford University also did their own study, and they came up with a conclusion and saying even 6.2% is too high. We're really looking at, because of recessions and drops, 5.5% rate of return is the optimal amount that we need to be calculating on. So when you're talking about, if you're taking Stanford's number, we're not at a couple $100 billion of unfunded liabilities. They calculate we're at 900 billion. So what's happening is they're playing with the numbers. They're not, they're not being realistic and telling you what's happening. They're trying to kick the can down the road, right? Because if they drop it down from 7.5%, say, to 5.5%, that would mean tens of millions of dollars more that local cities, the state, the counties will have to put into the pensions.
They have to donate.
Yeah, they're going to have to put in more money because the policies, the rate of return, the stocks aren't performing as well. So that means services on the local level are going to have to be cut, and then taxes are going to have to be raised.
Okay, my dear friend. Today we're touching base with California. As a matter of fact, we're going into depth about to find out what's wrong with California. We call it a diagnostic look into California. So joining me is my friend, Mr. Mark Ng. He is founder and CEO of CIA, California Industrial Business, B2B, right? And also CIA sounds very good. And also Mr. Constantino Roditis, and he is the candidate for California controller. We're talking about the California monetary point as the problems. From that point on, let's see what's wrong. All right, so stay with us, please. Hello, dear friends. Let's be back to the show. Jack Zhao on the East West Show with GNE TV doing a diagnostic look into California, see what's wrong. Joining me is my friend Mark Ng, and also Mr. Constantino Roditis. And he is the controller candidate for California, and he is the founder and CEO of California Industrial Business, B2B. So, back to the point. If I combine all your points to make a point, and we have to see another fact. the life expectancy is extended, prolonged due to technology and whatever, right? And medical science development. There's a saying that, and the average California life was 73, and now you have about 10% added due to all the benefits. Right now, when life expectancy added up by 10% though, doing the rough math, your money has to be 10% more to go along with it, right? Do we not have the 10% extra?
Well, when you're looking at the medical benefits that are happening with government employees, it all depends. For instance, my city that I live in Anaheim, doesn't do retiree medical plans, or some places don't do it long term. The state and other municipalities, it will depend. So it's not all uniform for each governmental agencies on how they do it. But yes, it's fundamentally broken, the system, but it's not just on the state level. This really has to do with on the federal level, because we don't have free market medicine in this country, unfortunately. It's the kind of, in one situation, it's we've socialized insurance companies so they can make money and they'll never lose money, but then we put the burden onto the people as well. So there's been a lot of I think, for instance, Obamacare was terrible for the regular consumer. It drove up costs immensely, and that's why you won't see, for instance, wages being raised for individual people, right, as much. We're seeing the stock market do well and the economy is doing well, but people's salaries are not increasing as much as they would, because corporations and companies have to pay for insurance.
Even though there's a $15 basic salary, minimum salary wage.
Minimum wage, yeah.
Well, that has nothing to do with that. It's just if your insurance is becoming more and more expensive each year, and I want to give you a raise, but unfortunately have to pay more in insurance, so I can't raise your salary as much. So that's how it hurts the individual person as well. So fundamentally on the state, on how they do governmental insurance policies, they need to change, but also we need to reach the federal people.
Whatever we say, at the end of the day, money come out of business,
yes,
right? Money doesn't grow on trees.
Exactly.
Okay. Back to you, Mark, right? To look at the problem, you talk about the unfunded liabilities, right? And it is not a fixed liability. It's still growing, right? Because there are new retirements joining the team, right?
Exactly.
And yet, versus the fact that life is prolonged. So you will expect more of the unexpected or unfunded liabilities than ever. Am I right?
Yeah, well, my problem with all of this is it actually destroys value. And I always boil it down to common sense, right? What is at the net effect of having this? Like you said, on one end, you have people living longer. So that means they're collecting those pension checks longer, while not creating value for whatever their previous trade was. And then obviously you have a workforce that it's really unfair to the younger generation. So younger people need to be very, very pissed off about this, because I certainly am. I certainly am very annoyed that half my money is going to taxes to a lot of people that are not working, whether it's pension retirees or whether it's to current taxes and mismanaged spending. So yes, this is the issue here, and we need to be really instead of getting lost in the weeds. And I know it's important for those of our audience that's a little more cerebral and wants to understand things, but those who don't want to get into the weeds of what's going on in their city government, which is most people, which is sad. I would love that to change. You need to just think, is this creating value or is this destroying value? Is this productive or is this counterproductive or unproductive?
And also, the problems have another layer, right? You call he calls a value, right? I call a moral issue. It's a moral issue, all right? Yes. Okay, those guys, let's say firefighters, right? They put their life in the lines. We had 2 recently died, all right? All right. And you have police officers who really put their lives on the lines. So they deserve to be better benefited, right? And also our poverty is increasing, homelessness is increasing, right? I used to have, based upon the number, if I'm right, I recall number 46,000 homeless by the year end of 2016. And by year end 2017, the number grew to 58,000. So 12,000 number increase. That's the poverty increase. Now, with all these problems mixed together, are we prepared with the 10%, 20% of a poverty increase and the 10%, 20% of the liability increase?
Well, here's a fundamental thing that when we're talking about poverty and how we do. When you were talking about earlier, you said the $15 whatever minimum wage, the fight for 15. If I told you forget $15, what happens if I gave you $30, but it was Zimbabwe dollars? What would be your response?
Oh, Somali dollars.
Yeah, your response would be, well, what is it worth, right? And I'd say it's about 8 cents. But see, your automatic response is when I say Zimbabwe dollar, or you're like, well, what is it worth? When we move a thing from $10 to $15 an hour, right? What's happening? We have to look at purchasing power. Okay, so if you were making $10 and you move to 15, what happens to the person who is making $15 an hour, right? Or the person who is making 20? If they don't get an equivalent raise in their pay, what you're doing is you're taking the middle class and you're bringing them closer to poverty, right? Because all you're doing is the cost of all goods and services will go up. So the point of money policy economics is to increase the purchasing power. So in Texas, if you go to Texas and you're making the average salary there, it's about $10,000 less than California. But the cost of living adjustment in California is 41% higher than the national average. Texas is minus 8.8%.
Last Christmas, I was in Texas, Houston, Texas, where when we pay $2.85 per gallon of gasoline, there they pay $1.95.
Correct.
Yep.
Right.
So, but just getting back to the point where I was saying the difference. So even if you're making $10,000 some dollars less in Texas, you will be making 32% more money in purchasing power in Texas than in California by making less money. So our goal is to be increasing purchasing power. And the only way to cut poverty, put more money into people's pockets, help out businesses is to increase purchasing power. And that is by cutting regulations and cutting taxes, because that will spur innovation and business.
I also want to back up Jack's point, because you had mentioned the gas thing, and that's huge, okay? Really, a lot of people only, this is where a lot of the people that want to squander value, I call them these value squanderers, don't focus on how bad regulation actually affects our expenses, and that's why that cost of living goes up. So for example, homes, okay, and that's another thing, here in California, the average middle class family can just not even think of affording a home. Meanwhile, you can get a mansion in downtown Atlanta. And this was just a few years ago. I had a friend buy this beautiful mansion right in the heart of the city to get a 10-minute commute to downtown Atlanta for $90,000. It was a 5-bedroom, 4-bath. I'm like, you can't even think about getting something like that here. I mean, maybe out in like California City or Tehachapi.
A friend of mine in Sugarland of Texas, Sugarland, right? Great city. Bought himself a mansion, I would say mansion kind of mansion, with a 6-bedroom, something upper, three stories, with 5 or 6 garage, a spot with a pool, everything for $156,000.
There you go.
Well, in the Building Industry Association in San Diego did a study, and it says 40% of the cost of new home build is due to regulation by going through about 45 different regulatory or government agencies. So when you're talking about, that's just what he was talking about, the regulations, right? It's before you can even give the new owner the key. It costs so much money, the regulations, add so much money on top of the cost.
What we had been talking about just now may stand for the 6th layer of the problem, which is the devaluation of our currency, and the 7th layer of the problem, which is the rise of home prices. Right. So, my dear friend, California is getting crazy. We started talking about giving a diagnosis to California to find out what's wrong. Before we were able to touch anything, the money thing discussion got us stuck in here. 2 segments already, we're still not done yet. So that's how big the problems are. With me, Mark and Constantino Roditas. We'll be right back, please. Hello, dear friends. Welcome back to the talk. Though I'm smiling, I know I smile in a hilarious way, in a funny way, because there's no matter to smile about. And it's all called the sarcastic. I don't know. We're smiling. We're all smiling. Anyway, this is our California. This is how ugly the picture is. And yet, we're not done yet. We're just in the first subject, talking about the monetary problems. With me today, my new friend, Mr. Constantino Roditas. He is a candidate for California Controller, the one who will put his hands on money. Thank God he has his life so experienced in management of money. Hopefully he will end up be a better hand managing the money in California. With Mark is the founder and CEO of California Industry Business B2B, and he is a big advocate and also philanthropic kind of person who I admire a lot. With these two sets of putting together, we want to make sure that we will give California a diagnostic look to see what's wrong. However, unfortunately, we are stuck in here with the money problem only. We didn't have time to go stretch to some other categories, right? Let's do it, right? Anyway, so welcome back to both of you.
Thank you.
With the money problem as ugly as it is, right? You mentioned a lot about regulatory problems,
Yes.
right, and legislature problems, right. And I didn't have a chance to discuss with you about a month ago on the 20th of June. I was the MC and co-organizer of an event called Frivolous Lawsuits, or Shakedown Lawsuits, Strangle California, sponsored by EDI, my organization, co-sponsored by CALA, California Citizens Against Lawsuit Abuse. Right. It was such a significant event. After it was concluded, it's done. We said that concludes the program today. People still hanging there asking questions to the panels. And I, as the MC, saying that at lunchtime, lunchbox is ready, your catering service right behind you, go grab your lunch while talking. I have to on and on and on and on do that. People just so much in it. Talking about how California is being strangled. I mean, California small business, especially small business, being strangled by the crazy regulations, even laws. So we want to touch a little bit about those areas, and that's the 8th layer of our problems.
Well, yeah, the laws are ridiculous. When you have a sitting assemblyman propose a law to fine restaurants or waiters that serve straws, then you know you have a problem in this state. To me, a lot of this frivolous stuff going on and frivolous laws being proposed is a distraction to people. And I really have to urge most of California, please start considering your priorities. We have so many And I'm talking about the electorate. I'm talking about an electorate that is not holding their elected officials accountable, missing out on good people from the private sector that understand what the world is about, to fall for these charlatans that will propose ridiculous laws like these straws, and instead of actually attacking the problem in the state, which is a macro problem.
Yes,
We have a macro problem of losing population. We're losing people, and we're not only losing population, but the ones that are coming in are the homeless. We're attracting homeless from all over the country because of these ridiculous laws here. So yeah, we need to start considering our priorities and really get educated politically. I know there are a lot of people out there that are accomplished in their fields. They may be astronauts, they may be rocket scientists, brain surgeons, whatever it is. Very smart people that don't get involved politically.
Exactly.
It is a problem in the Asian community. We go out and work, and then we don't realize that behind us are these politicians that are actually killing our values, like meritocracy. Look at what's happening with Harvard. We're not even holding our elected officials accountable, or the institutions that we revere and support, like Harvard. Oh, it's an Ivy League. We don't give them a free pass to do whatever they want to discriminate against Asian people in their college admissions.
All right, okay, that's another issue. We'll touch it a little later. We got a more problem than that. And if I quote from you, let's prioritize it. Okay.
Amen.
Let's do not run a contest of whose tuxedo looks better at a funeral. Yeah. Do we do that? We don't do that, do we?
Well, let's
talk about the funeral. Speaking of the funeral, though, you mentioned, well, this is your cup of tea. You mentioned like the regulatory problems. So.
So on the regulatory problems that you were talking about, so I'm an immigrant myself. I was born in Canada. My parents are originally from Greece. We came here.
Hello, Canada.
Just like a lot of the Chinese community and everything else, they're immigrants, and they come over here for a better life, and they're very entrepreneurial, and they want to start small businesses. But see, the problem is that people need to understand big businesses are a lot of times okay with very heavy regulations. It's true. It's because small businesses, the Chinese, mom and pop stores and businesses, they can't afford the $15 minimum wage or all these regulations. And you start seeing fewer and fewer. You go to the shopping centers, you see fewer and fewer mom and pop businesses, and you see large corporations, right? So when they raise it high, well, McDonald's can afford to automate a lot of programs and cut off employees, or they can absorb the cost because they're buying everything cheaper, right? But the small businesses that create the business, the economic engine, they can't afford it, and they go away. So even though it costs big businesses a little bit more money, guess what? They go, I don't have competition from you. I don't have competition from the mom and pop Chinese restaurant. I just got the corporate Panda Express. They can go ahead, and we're going to take that business. So those are the big things.
And our policies and our rules, regulations do not help them.
No.
Right. Not only do we not help them, but also we're hurting them.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. I have a good friend, who bought a property on a very major street in a beautiful city, opened a business which was doing so good, and the second year, third year, they're thinking about putting a second story on top. And looking at it, the construction, the basement, everything, the blueprint, everything, it allows the room, the possibility of adding stories, right? So, and then the city department confirms it is okay to add a second story. However, the parking spaces, you need 12 more extra parking spaces, right? To back up with the second story, right? So why? Because looking around the property, there is no room for extra 12 parking.
So
I look at the map too myself, though. Sure enough, there was no extra room for the parking.
And this is a major problem. Why does government have to get involved in every single thing and
let me finish.
so many rules?
Sure. That's point number one. Point number two, looking into the book, though, so if you find problems into another layer, you will find out what was the regulation or rules or city ordinance of the width of each parking space. So they found out it was written in the year of 1952, where people drive those Mercedes or drive those Cadillac or Chevy, this much wider. Now we shrink to Toyota. We shrink to lots of folks driving even smaller cars, right? No longer 12 feet. So why can't they shrink the rules to look around at today's land, do a measurement, do the average, and remap the parking?
And I think that's important.
And they did.
Yeah, and that's important. That's why
And
people
then
need
the
to
problem
be involved
resolved.
in local government. That's,
Right.
that's why.
No,
look,
no, no.
I'm running for California
Yes.
State Controller, and this is a very important spot. But people need to realize it doesn't end or begin with me. It doesn't end and begin with a candidate for governor. People need to be involved in their local government, because this is where you live, you work, you create your businesses. It's important for the Chinese community to be involved in the local government. They should not just ignore it, and that's a fundamental problem in the community.
Uh-huh.
But you as controller are able to divvy up, certain funds and maybe stop bad regulations.
At your
from
level,
happening in
controller
your own little
level,
way.
you have a bigger game to play.
Yes.
All right. But what we're doing, we're dissecting a rat, right? A mice, all right, or whatever. Because in the organism, they're the same.
Yes.
They're the same thing, right? So now we're talking about, Mark says, you want to prioritize your list, and want to look at the money. You will see the urgency of the money shortage. You will do everything you can, including your regulatory areas,
Yes.
your law legislature areas, to facilitate business, to make money, to hold them rather than let them
There's
go.
a key word, right? Prioritize. California is like a parent that is giving their child every toy that they want and extra. Oh, by the way, you're playing with all your toys already. Can I buy you another one?
And bullet train. A bullet train too.
There
You
you
need a bullet
go.
train, we got a bullet train.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, look at the money by the end of the month. Oh my God, we got a bill to pay. My dear friend, my lovely audience, it is exactly like you manage your own house, your own home, right? So you have to be a good wife or a good husband. If happens to be husband be the manager of money, well, really to watch your dollars and pennies. Well, everything in and out. Other than that, I quote you, you will be squandering money rather than waste. You just squandering, right? Good. Extra toy? Okay, good. Let's do it. All right, my dear friend, let's do it. Let's take a short moment out. We come back to continue. Hello, my dear friends. Welcome back to the show. Jack Chow of the East West with GNE TV. In talking about California, you really have to be trained to not get too excited, not to get too emotional. A little bit passion is okay, but you just laugh yourself out of it. So, with me, okay, I'm doing it again. With me talking about California, playing doctor, see what's wrong with California, are my two wonderful friends. I'll start with him first. Constantino Rodriguez. He is the candidate for California Controller. He will be the one, in other words, he will be the one putting his hands on our Californian money. Sir, good luck to you.
Thank you.
And by talking to you, I know the least you know a word to prioritize our needs.
Yes.
Amen.
And you know that we have to shrink or shape our regulatories to keep our business from leaving California for some better land, right?
Texas?
Texas, for example. All right. And next to him is my friend Mark. Mark is the founder and the CEO of CIA, California Industrial Business B2B, right? So, oh, by the way, Mark is a philanthropic figure who I salute. I respect his set of mind. Putting together, we have the money problem. We have the unfunded liabilities. everything, and we keep adding until we came to the 9th layer of the onion. All right, instead of peeling the onion off, we went to the core of the onion, we add layers on. We found out that our onion has at least 9 layers. The 9th layer being that we have everything unexpected happening at the same time, and yet our regulatory system are pushing them out. So now that we're running, finally, thank God, we have a hope. We might have some hope, right? Depends. Well, do you have a plan, or have you thought about how you want to play with those toys whatsoever?
Well, the number one thing is, right, is the controller is the chief financial officer of the state. And me as a chief financial officer of corporations, I look at policies of it's not just an accountant, right? And just saying, you know, you made $10, you spend $5, you have $5 profit. That's not what the controller is also in a sense, a CEO. It looks at the examination and says, you need to make certain adjustments in policies and regulations to maximize your rate of return, to cut down costs. So that is my priority, which the current controller hasn't been doing, hasn't been auditing, hasn't been looking into projects like the high-speed rail, where we have billions of dollars of waste. So my priority is to cut out the waste. And then is to look at excess bureaucracy, right? If you're the state, you're the county, and I'm the city, right? Maybe you shouldn't be doing that, be involved in it at all. Maybe the county shouldn't be involved. Maybe just me, the city, should be regulating or doing that. So it would be cheaper if you two levels of government got out of the picture. So it's looking at where we can cut government. What is the best for the state to handle? What's best for the county to handle? And what's best for the city? So looking at those things and just making it just like a corporation, right? Which division of the company is best. And then overall is to keep business here, make it grow, make California affordable, and how to maximize purchasing power for the individual and for businesses to be able to, you know, afford to live here. I would love to see back to the day where we can have just one member of the family working and being able to afford a home instead of both parents working and can barely afford to live here and can't even afford a home. So I want to get back to a place where other parts of the country are at, where you can survive with one paycheck family, and that's where I think we would like to go. Very good.
Mark, you want to help him with a little bit about how local money. I know lots of cities are getting tired to get to donate to the state. And the state is never getting tired of saying that, okay, here's my money. Every time when they dig, it is going to their own saving account, right? Exactly. They just grab money. So from a local level, from the state level though, how do you guys, I just assume you in charge of city, you are the controller, how you guys want to play the game?
For me, fundamentally...
And me, the business owner who bend over, work my whatever, so to make the money.
Well, I think that, look, our tax code is fundamentally broken because it's based on basically from the Great Depression. It's almost 100 years old. It doesn't work anymore. And here's the problem is, you live in your own community, you pay income tax, it goes up to the state, and then what does the state do? The state brings it back, tax, brings it back down to the city.
Everything, and also my business do tax.
Yeah.
Right? And my payroll tax whatsoever.
Yeah, but instead of your income tax going to the state and then the state doing a bunch of different things, doesn't it make sense that your city and your county will be able to have some of your income tax profits, you know, like what you're paying in taxes? You should just stay locally so they can maximize the roads, the schools,
I, as a business owner, I pay you, I pay him too.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm double taxed. Right? And then I, as a person, I have my income tax, and I have my federal tax to file. I'm taxable. Well, that's it. And how you want to lose the shackle up?
Yes, I want to basically.
We're shackled up.
I just don't want the state government to have direct taxation onto you. So there will be no state income tax, no state sales tax. It would be on the local level.
Wow.
And then they could decide what the rate will be. And then the state, I want to limit it to where only the things the state can do. And then we look at it and say, how much does the state need? And then the counties and the cities will give money to the state to do those functions, but not the people. So I want to turn local government, where your own community where you live, to have more of its money.
So let me confirm it. You will promote for no state tax.
No direct tax from the state at all.
All right, no direct tax from the state at all.
How do you hope to accomplish that?
Yeah.
I'm planning on doing a ballot initiative. So it's called trickle-up taxation. I wrote a plan. It's a published plan. I plan to do the study of what functions is best for the state, for the counties, for the cities, examining what government agencies we can get rid of, because we can get rid of a lot of government agencies on the state level.
For sure.
Just cut them out and just saying, here, county, this is your responsibility. And then we'll take the tax rates that we have, put it to the cities initially, and then a larger percentage of money will go to the state. But eventually, it'll just be the counties and the cities will kind of decide what they want to do. And then that's going to be a ballot initiative in 2020. So I do the study. Once I get elected, I'm doing the study. I'm going to report back to the people. I'm going to say, this is our plan. And in 2020, it goes onto the ballot, and then people are going to vote, and then we're going to fundamentally change.
California became a state into United States for year of 1851. Don't quote me if I may be wrong, but this is the first time I heard of.
Well, see, California used to be like this. So what I'm talking about is a system how our government
First time heard of.
In America has done. But did you know, before we changed the tax code in California, regulatory authority and taxing authority was done on the county level. It wasn't done on the state level.
Wow. I see.
And then we changed it and we made centralized big government, basically in Sacramento, and so did the federal government. So what we're saying is, let's go back to the way we used to do things when California was a golden state, and we did well. So
in other words, we did do that.
We did do that, so we just need to go back to what we used to do, it used to work, and just modernize it for the 21st.
And you're the one who will promote that.
Yes.
Oh, you heard that, Mark? Mm-hmm. You heard that? I believe my audience, you will like that. If somebody will knock on my door and say, Jack, from day on, you're state tax free, I'll give him a hug.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll give him a hug.
So the highest state tax rate is 13.3% right now, which is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. That's higher than any state. So in addition to the federal government taking their cut, another 13%, which is probably $1 out of $7 that you earn, is going to go to the state to be mismanaged.
Yeah, of course. In addition to that, we have this new tax, gas tax of 66 cents.
Exactly.
That we want to put it on.
And both Costas and I are really active in the yes on 6. So everyone remember, yes on Proposition 6, which repeals the gas tax, which supposedly was going into a fund.
Say yes on Proposition 6.
Yes on 6. Because that the money that's supposed to go to fixing our roads is going really into a slush fund.
Never went that way.
Never went that way.
We had, if I recall, to get water, for example, we have the water bond, well, for 3 times already. We have the road infrastructure bond for at least 2 measures already. And now we have the gasoline tax going for road. I don't think so. So those money, and also, you mentioned also big deal about regulatory, right?
Yes.
I'm not talking about from high above going down regulatory. I'm talking about regulations to tighten the rules to the legislators, to the money squanders.
Yes.
Right, to make sure money, for example, this cell phone money goes to my cell phone account.
Yes.
I would like to see the balance being knocked down from day one on, because of that. I don't want my money goes to the business card holder. That's another day, another story. Do you think so? So
yes.
please, once you take office, put some efforts on that.
Well, that's going to be part of the trickle-up taxation, my plan that I'm talking about.
All
the,
right.
The
Triple-up taxation?
Trickle-up taxation.
Trickle-up.
So the way it is right now, our tax dollars go to Sacramento, and they trickle down through a bunch of government agencies down to the local level in waste, fraud, and abuse. So I'm going to remove all that bureaucracy. I'm going to keep the tax dollars local, and whatever the state needs to function, we're going to trickle that up from the local community to the state. So when we go to the state and say, for instance, road repairs, most of it's going to go down to the county level. The state's not going to be involved.
In other words, the state will knock on the door and say, hey, give me some dollars. I want to fix the road.
And I'm going to say, too bad, it's going to be the county.
County.
Your county's going to be doing most of those repairs in your city because they already do it, right? The state really doesn't do that. Your city roads, it's not created by the state.
Your looks, nobody does it.
It's done by the city.
Be the city,
yes.
be the county, be the state.
But they don't have the money
whatsoever.
because the state's wasting
Nobody
it.
has the money, and yet we are paying.
Yeah.
We're being again and again and again, over again, taxed. My dear friends, we're a little over time. I have to stop right here. Thank God we have somebody finally who is willing enough or brave enough to tackle the problem hanging for that many decades. That is to trickle up the tax rather than trickling down. So we want to make sure that happens. For that, you have a better chance of winning because people like candidates with the new ideas.
No, thank you.
Instead of just saying, I can be better than him, so that's easy to say. That's, just to say, I will do it totally. I will use this method, and here's my method. Something like that, right? Okay. My dear friends, with me, I have Mark Ang, founder and CEO of CIA B2B, and also Constantino Roditas. He is a candidate for California Controller. So we wrap it, hoping there's a next time. And we're not done yet. We're just at the layer number 9. We need to go on, so we'll be back. All right?
Awesome. Thank you, Jack.
Sure.
Thank you, Jack.